Hey everyone, it's the Ioniq guy. What you see before you is the 2024 Kona Electric SEL. This is all new for 2024, and behind me is the old 2021 Kona Electric that my fiance has been driving for the last 3 years. And the lease is ending on this relatively soon, and this is our top contender for our next vehicle. So I wanted to spend some time with it. The dealership in my area literally just got this one 2 days ago. I'm the first person to drive it, and I'm gonna give you guys a full walk around tour of the exterior, the interior. We'll talk about some of its specs compared to the outgoing Kona Electric, and we'll go for a little test drive on some back roads as well as the highway. So if you want to find out my first impressions of the redesigned 2024 Kona Electric, then stay tuned. With winter in full swing, now is the best time to purchase some all-weather floor mats from today's sponsor, LinerX. LinerX is a Maryland-based company selling high-quality, laser-measured floor mats at a great price. They're made from TPE, which is a mixture of rubber and plastic, so they offer traction and flexibility as well as strength when you need to remove them, so you're not going to dump their contents all over your floor. If you've ever owned floor mats from, say, WeatherTech, then you know those are made from a much harder material that tends to warp over time. Not with LinerX. They also feature a simple and classy looking pattern with a lip around the entire footwell so liquids won't spread around and get on your carpeting. I've been using their front and rear floor mats as well as trunk and rear seat liners for over a year now, and they've held up admirably. So these floor mats have gotten the Ioniq Guy seal of approval, and when anybody asks which floor mats to buy, I always recommend LinerX. Available on their website or Amazon through the links in the description. The first big difference with the new 2024 Kona Electric is going to be the overall dimensions. The new Kona Electric is longer, taller, wider, has more trunk capacity, more back space room, as well as a dedicated front trunk, which the outgoing Kona does not have. Hyundai has fully implemented their new design language here with the updated Kona, that being these really thin light bars. We're seeing that with the new Sonata. We're gonna see it with the Ioniq 7, but this is just really keeping it in family with the rest of Hyundai's cars. So let's start at the back end of the Kona. You can see we've got Hyundai's new flat kind of satin finished badge here. Looks nice. I know this is a dedicated electric version of the Kona, but I really wish they didn't add this badging. If I bought the car, I would likely take this off. Just like the outgoing Kona, you do have a rear wiper. Very nice to see. So opening up the cargo area is where you're going to see a big change compared to the outgoing Kona. The new Kona is easily 4 inches, maybe 5-6 inches deeper than this trunk on the 2021 Kona. Now I know they're trying to keep costs down, but it's still disappointing to see an incandescent bulb here in the trunk area. You do have a decently sized underfloor storage area, and you could even put a spare tire under this floor. It might not be a full-size spare, but you could definitely get a small compact spare under this false floor. Obviously, you've got split folding rear seats, 60 on that side, 40 on that side. Now this is the SEL trim, so it doesn't have the automated rear hatch. Now this angled cut across the door panels is very reminiscent of the Ioniq 5. You are going to see something very similar on that car, so just another design detail they're using to kind of keep this in family with the Ioniq brand. You have body colored arch panels here. You don't have the kind of cheesy looking grayish black plastic around the wheel wells on the outgoing version. I just threw on the hazards so you could see the turn signals. You can see they are amber in the back here, and they are definitely incandescent, not LED. You've got a high mount brake light. Also keeping it in family are these pixels running across the rear bumper. Backup camera right here. It's pretty exposed. It's probably gonna get dirty really quick. You've got amber turn signal indicators on the side view mirrors, and your turn signals up front are also amber incandescent bulbs. Bit of a bummer there, but those should be easy to upgrade to LED. Now the camera's not picking up really well, but there is an LED accent light that runs across the entire length of the front end of the car. It's a really sharp look. Actually, it does look like it's split in the middle where it kind of gets more pixelated here, and that is not illuminated. So I'm not sure when that comes on. I'll have to play around with the lighting a little bit more. This car does have a front radar sensor because it does have highway drive assist. Your charge port is up front, which I actually prefer. I really like having a front charge port. J1772, it has not switched to NACS just yet. Interesting, you have different colored little DC pin covers compared to the Ioniq 5 and Ioniq 6. I wonder if that's a redesign because these go missing all the time. And you do have your indicator lights here that show 25, 50, 75, and 100% state of charge. Same nice satin Hyundai logo up front, and the headlights are LED. Now this car is riding on Kumho Solace All seasons, 215 60R17s. Different aspect ratio than the outgoing Kona. Let's take a look at the front trunk. So you do have a latch right here in the center, and you do have gas struts. And guess what? Finally got a frunk in the Kona Electric. The outgoing Kona Electric had plenty of room for a front trunk, but they just omitted it for some reason. But here, look at how deep this is. It's bigger than the Ioniq 5 by almost probably double. You could actually fit some stuff in here, which is really nice. Got a gasket on there. Really glad to see they added one. Single coolant loop, unlike the Ioniq 5. There's your emergency charger release pull. So I have the driver's seat adjusted for me at 6'2", but I did adjust the passenger seat for somebody with shorter legs. So let's check out the back. So here on the passenger side, getting in. Wow, this is a far cry from the outgoing Kona. I've got about 3.5 inches maybe before my knees are hitting the back of the seat. Plenty of space under the seat too for my feet to go. Really like that. That is very important for us tall people. Thigh support is surprisingly good. The back seat in here is actually fairly high off the ground compared to some of its competition. Shutting the door. It's all really cheap, scratchy plastic back here, so the backseat passengers don't get too much luxury back here. Do have a dome light, and that might be LED actually. I think that is LED. And what do you know? Even in the lower end Kona, you get an armrest, which was completely eliminated for the 2024 Ioniq 5 SEL. You don't even get one of these anymore. Yeah, comfort back here is actually quite good. I'm very impressed so far. Also, unlike the 2024 Ioniq 5 SEL mid-trim, you've got rear seat vents, which were taken away from the Ioniq 5 for this new model year. You also get 2 USB-C ports. They are illuminated, very nice. A little pocket here, you could potentially stick a phone or some other things. You do not get any seat back pockets. The rear windows do open all the way. Be nicer if this were padded though for you to rest your arm on. These rear windows are not double glazed, so they aren't gonna keep the sound down for the rear passengers, like on the Ioniq 5 and Ioniq 6 that have double glazed rear windows. Got a bottle storage area down here. I don't know if you can actually get much in terms of bottle size in there, but you do have it. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of all black interiors because it's just very kind of dreadful. Everything is just so dark. I prefer light colored interiors. So if I were to get this car, I would definitely get the lighter color. Got grab handles on all 4 doors. Getting out of the Kona. Comfortable step-in height. In terms of seatbelts, you're not going to have this rattling on the C-pillar back here like the Ioniq 5 because it is pretty inboard from the plastic trim here, so that's not going to rattle around even if people get in and out of the car and get it all twisted up. The headrests in the back here are height adjustable, which is nice. Let's see what I've got for legroom behind myself. You know, it's not great, but it's also not too bad. And that is saying a lot for the Kona because I did just spend some time in the Polestar 2, which is generally a larger car than this, and I virtually could not sit behind myself in that car. So here I've got plenty of space to put my feet under the driver's seat. Knee room isn't fantastic. My knees are into the back plastic panel here, but for a relatively short drive, I'm actually pretty comfortable back here. Other than getting maybe another inch of knee room, I can't really complain about this back seat. It's plenty usable. Now, just for comparison, I have the passenger seat set here for me. And let's see what I've got for leg and knee room. And it is much tighter. My knees are actually jammed into the back of the seat. Toe space is a little bit less, but I can still get my feet under there, which can't be said about some other cars. But yeah, this is virtually unusable for a long drive for me. So my first impressions of the Kona Electric, all in all, I feel at home. As somebody who's driven an Ioniq 5 every day for the last 2 years, I just feel like I'm in this car and I'm wearing it, kind of like I wear my Ioniq 5. Whereas with the Ioniq 6, when I get into it, I feel a little just kind of encroached on. The big center console just really makes it feel like a much smaller car than it actually is. Sitting here, this car feels bigger than the Ioniq 6. I've got plenty of legroom. My knee isn't hitting any center console, which I really appreciate. People with long legs will really appreciate that. This car does feel like a step above the class that it actually competes in. But again, it is bigger than the outgoing Kona Electric, so I would hope that it feels bigger because it is bigger. The steering wheel and steering wheel position feel really good. The steering wheel shape is actually kind of interesting. You have these 2 points down at about 4 and 6, and they're a little squared off, but you do have nice bolsters up top. This is an all-leather steering wheel here in the SEL trim. You've got the gear selector here on the steering column, which I really like. I actually really do like this new square design. I hope they bring that to the Ioniq 5 for the mid-cycle refresh, and they probably will because they want to start sharing part spins between all these cars. Just like the old Kona, you still have paddle shifters, but here you do have iPedal and auto regen, which can bring it down to a full stop. In the existing Kona Electric, it will not come to a complete stop. It'll get down to a few miles per hour and then just kind of coast along. This kind of brushed metal trim I think looks nice. It's almost kind of like a fabric looking material. It's like a cross between brushed metal and kind of a linen type of fabric. The start stop button is up here, and even here on the SEL you do have dual zone climate control, which cannot be said about the base model of the existing Kona, or at least the 2021. You do also have the Ferris plate behind the little bit of fabric here, which allows you to stick anything that's magnetic onto that board. So I can use my existing magnetic eyewear holders here. I've got a new design that is going to be half the price of the existing version, and this new design will accommodate pretty much any style of sunglasses, whereas this one you really do need to have the thicker arms, but the new one will accommodate pretty much any type of sunglasses that you can throw at it. So those are going to be half the price even. So check those out in my store at ioniqguy.com if you are interested. And of course, this will work on the Ioniq 5 or the new Kona or Kona Electric. The glove box in here is much smaller than the Ioniq 5, which is fine. I don't ever use the full capacity of the Ioniq 5's glove box. Got this little tray up top above the glove box that you could stick some knickknacks in. But the big thing here with Hyundai's new CCNC infotainment system, we've got wireless CarPlay and wireless Android Auto. Hallelujah! So excited about that. I've got my Google Pixel 8 paired up with it right now, and it's responsive, it's quick, it looks good. Really no complaints in terms of the responsiveness of the wireless capability. So all around, great job, Hyundai. We'll come back to the infotainment in just a minute. I just wanted to kind of finish up and say that everything else in this cabin really remains very Hyundai, very familiar for me. This car does have auto high beams, which is nice in this middle trim. Oh, God, I love having that rear wiper. That is so nice. There's a nice texture on the dashboard. It's like a basketball. It feels really nice. You got all your standard buttons across the dashboard here, but compared to the Ioniq 5, you do have nice hard buttons for all of the climate controls, which I'm a big fan of. I really am not a huge fan of capacitive touch buttons in cars. These, you just see them, you touch them, you get response back, you know that you're touching it. I just really wish that every other automaker would just get this. Just give us buttons. Call me old, I just like them. And the rest of the center console is actually really cool. It's reminiscent of the Ioniq 5, but it's different enough that it feels fresh. So your drive mode switch moves down here, and because it is a left-right toggle, you can go forward and backward, so you don't have to go around the horn like in the Ioniq 5 because it's just a button on the steering wheel. But you've got your heated seat controls down here. If this were the limited trim, you would have the ventilated seat controls down here as well. And got this nice big open area here in the lower center console. And you'll see there's no cup holders right now, but if I want them, all I got to do is push these two buttons. Boom, cup holders. They fit a pretty standard 24-ounce water bottle pretty easily. And then you've got a relatively small armrest. It's a little shorter than the Ioniq 5. It does open up. You have a little tray you can throw some stuff in right here. But you can pull out this divider here and then make this area one big storage space. So if you got a really big bag that's not going to fit somewhere else in the car, you can pull this divider out, throw it out the window, and be on your way. Wow, actually the door pockets here can actually accommodate a relatively large water bottle. So this 24-ounce one fits in there no problem at all. That's more than I can say about my Ioniq 5. So really nice to see that. You can have a couple water bottles if you are going on a big, long trip and you want to have a lot of water with you. And then there's still plenty of space down there to stick something else. The rear view mirror here does not have HomeLink or anything. That might be on the top trim though. It doesn't auto dim either. You have to flip it up for night mode. I am Genuinely impressed with the styling and the design of this interior. I really like it. The driver's seat here is 6-way adjustable with 2-way lumbar. The passenger seat is fully manual, up and down, recline, and forward and backward, but that's kind of to be expected in a mid-level trim from Hyundai. The front windows are not double glazed, so this car is not going to be as hushed down as in, say, an Ioniq 5 or Ioniq 6 at probably highway speeds. It's going to be most noticeable. But I think the door panels in general have a lot more sound deadening than the outgoing Kona Electric. You can just hear it when you shut these doors. It's a nice reassuring thud. The doors on the outgoing Kona sound very thin and just kind of metallic when you shut them. Just sounds like they're like rattling and reverberating a little bit. But one of the biggest differences between this and the outgoing Kona and even my Ioniq 5 is the new CCNC infotainment system. So let's take a look at that. So here in the new CCNC software, you're going to find a completely different look versus the outgoing Kona as well as my Ioniq 5, because those are utilizing old software systems from Hyundai. This is completely new, completely redesigned. So the one you're probably going to be spending the most time with in here is going to be the EV mode, because at least for me, most of the time I'm in the car, I'm usually in Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. So the other times I go into the infotainment system are for either navigation so I can use battery conditioning or to change my EV settings. Now, looking at my EV settings, I just really like the color scheme here. I like the blues, the oranges, the yellows. It's nicely kind of muted, but also at the same time, you get some fun with these brighter colors. It's a nice looking palette in my opinion. This button right here is probably the most interesting button in this entire car, and that is battery conditioning activation. This is something that we've been asking for years now with the Ioniq 5, Ioniq 6, all the existing Konas. This magical button right here, when you press it, will begin warming up the battery for DC fast charging. So you don't have to use the onboard navigation to activate battery conditioning. So if you're on a road trip, you know how long it's going to take you to get to a DC fast charger. You can just get in this car, push that button when you want to, and it will activate. So I did just push the button about a minute ago, and you can see battery care is currently using 6.6 kilowatts to bring that battery temperature up. It's currently 30 degrees out, so it's going to bring that battery up by 40 degrees for ideal charging conditions. And that's another big thing about this new Kona is this can charge at 100 kilowatts. The outgoing charges at, I believe, 68 or 69 kilowatts. So this charging time is down to about, I think, 38 minutes, 40 minutes. So the charging time here is down by several minutes compared to the outgoing Kona Electric. So we don't really need that right now, so let's turn it off and not waste electricity. You have mostly all the same stuff you find in any of the existing systems from Hyundai. It's just mostly a updated look to the car. Most of the menu items here are very similar to the outgoing system. It's definitely a little bit quicker than the outgoing system. BlueLink is not activated in this car because it hasn't been sold yet, so I can't really show you any of the BlueLink features, but you can see just going into Android Auto, everything's pretty lickety split. The map graphics look pretty much the same as the outgoing version, so they're obviously still using the same mapping software in the car. You do have a new kind of pull down shade similar to iOS and Android where you can do some different things to the settings. You can turn up your navigation, screen brightness, or turn the display completely off and just have a screensaver. This does have the base 6-speaker audio system, which doesn't sound terrific, but it's livable. The driver display here, most of the screens here are identical to any of the other cars from Hyundai that you can scroll through. You can see your efficiency and everything, your tire pressures, your lane keep assist, and highway drive assist. What is really different here compared to my Ioniq 5 are just the gauges in general. So you can see here they're very just flat, simple looking. As you change the drive modes, they look a little bit different. This is for sport, snow mode, eco mode, back to normal. So there's a couple different gauge styles for the display over here. So right now we're in simple, and we'll switch it over into classic, and it gives you more of a traditional looking speedometer. Now if you go through the different drive modes, you can see it still stays with the speedometer looking gauge. So some of you might like that. I personally like having a digital readout. So I will go back to simple. So now we're behind the wheel of the 2024 Kona Electric SEL. Having driven a 2021 Kona Electric, the first thing I notice is the throttle response. It's much more tame than the outgoing Kona Electric. With the outgoing Kona Electric, if you just barely tap on the accelerator, you could get those front wheels spinning pretty easily. The throttle is plenty responsive. You do have auto regen as well, which was not available in the outgoing Kona. You activate that by holding on the right paddle shifter. The suspension feels pretty well controlled on these kind of uneven road surfaces here. Sight lines out of the car are pretty good. The A-pillar is a little thick, so that's full beans. So that was in normal mode. You do have snow mode. You don't have to hold down or anything special to get to it either. You just rotate this dial that's down low. So let's leave it in sport mode for a minute and see what that's like. The accelerator is much more responsive in sport mode. So this is flooring it in sport mode. Yeah, even in sport mode, it's not super quick off the line. At about 30 miles per hour is when you can really start to feel it kind of whirl up. The tuning here for the suspension feels pretty similar to the Ioniq 6. Just the right amount of firmness, just the right amount of softness. And let's just check after a few miles what our efficiency is. 2.4 miles per kilowatt hour, so not terrific efficiency, but we are driving it pretty aggressively right now. Currently, we're at 96% state of charge with an estimated range of 227 miles. This car does only have 11 miles on it though, so it's doing its best to guess, but it's probably pretty far off. This thing is fun though. Plenty of pep. Actually, let's go into eco mode and see what that feels like. So the steering got pretty light going into eco mode. Throttle is still very responsive in eco mode though. It doesn't feel like I'm desperate for extra power if I were, say, passing somebody. Let's see if our efficiency goes up down here in eco mode. I'm finding the seat really comfortable. This is the SEL, so it's the mid trim of the car and it has the fabric seats. And I actually really like this fabric. It's really grippy fabric too. It kind of helps keep you in the seat. In terms of cabin noise, I'd say it's on par with my Ioniq 5. I'm not hearing any squeaks or rattles or anything. The seating position obviously is very similar to the Ioniq 5. You're more upright than in the Ioniq 6. I do really like that. Now this does have 201 horsepower, which is going to be plenty for most. It does have 188 pound-feet of torque as well, and that instantaneous torque is what makes this thing really feel zippy. My left foot has plenty of foot room. It's got a nice dead pedal area. I do think I wish that iPedal was a little bit more aggressive in this car. As I'm coming to a stop, I mean, I'm sure I would get used to it after driving this car for a while, but I just want it to grab just a little bit more and bring me to a stop a little bit quicker so that I can really be confident that I'm gonna stop where I actually want to stop. All around, it just feels very compliant. This is kind of the ride that I like in a car. I'm not desperate for more power here. It's got plenty for everyday use. I have seen spy photos. There is going to be an N version of the electric Kona, so stay tuned for that. Whether that would come with all-wheel drive or not, don't really know. So that's been city driving the new Kona Electric. Very impressive. I really like the feel of this car. But now let's get it out on the highway, check highway drive assist, see how it does on the freeway. So I just engaged highway drive assist. Seems to be doing pretty well. Right now we're using about 44 kilowatts going up this hill. In terms of road noise, it's definitely louder than my Ioniq 5 and a lot louder than the Ioniq 6 by comparison. The Ioniq 6 is the quietest. Let's see what kind of passing power this has. Plenty. This is a nice driving car on the highway. Other than the road noise, it's comfortable. I gotta double check, but I don't think that the limited trim gets double glazed front windows. But if it did, that would definitely make a big difference in terms of road noise. Also, I just checked and these tires are inflated to 48 PSI, which is probably for shipping, and they weren't adjusted to their lower pressure setting for delivery yet. So we've done 21 miles so far and we've averaged 2.6 miles per kilowatt hour. I would expect this to be much higher than that, but I was driving it in sport mode for a fair amount of time today, so to be expected. I really like the seats in this car though. The side bolstering is just right for me, and I'm a big guy, so if you're thinner than me, you'll be pretty fine. You do have auto hold here, so the brakes do hold when you take your foot off of it. So we're pulling back into Key Hyundai of Manchester, Connecticut. Big shout out to them for letting me take this car for a couple of hours. So there you have it. Those are my first impressions of the 2024 Kona Electric. I'm very impressed with this car after just spending 2 hours with it. Love the way it drives, love the spaciousness, love all the updates compared to the existing Kona Electric. I'm really excited about the prospect of adding this to our garage. If we do get one, expect a ton of coverage on it. Gonna do all sorts of testing and just living with this car, kind of like what I've done for the last 2 years with the Ioniq 5. Don't worry, the Ioniq 5 isn't going anywhere. When the updated 2025 Ioniq 5 comes out later this year, that will be my new car. But all in all, I think Hyundai has done a terrific job refreshing the Kona. Are there some things I wish were different here? Yes. I wish it were on the eGMP platform. I wish it had 800 volts. I wish it charged as fast as the Ioniq 5. I wish it had all-wheel drive. But apparently you can't have all of that at this price point, so you have to give up some things. But I think they saved money in the right places. The fact that this charges almost twice as fast as the outgoing Kona makes it much more easy to live with. But for most people who are just empty nesters, about towners, you don't really need to have DC fast charging capability. And even though this doesn't have it in spades, it still has good enough for that occasional road trip. So I think Hyundai made the right decision in saving money on that front, because they gave this car a great interior, they gave it a lot more cargo space, they gave it a front trunk, they gave it nice lighting. So anyway guys, stay tuned for more, because I have a feeling this is going to be in our garage relatively soon. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section. This is a world car, so it's sold all over planet Earth. So I know this is going to be really popular in other markets, probably more so than the US. So if you want more coverage on the Kona Electric, leave comments down below. Let me know what you're interested in. So anyway guys, if you like today's video, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already done so. Check out my store for Ioniq 5, Ioniq 6 GV60, and the new Kona Electric for the magnetic eyewear holders. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care, everybody.